Well, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to be talking about an amazing exhibition that I saw when I was in London in March, and it was at the Victoria and Albert Museum, which is London's decorative arts museum, and it was called Marie Antoinette Style. Now, 18th century French, not my natural thing. It's a bit fluffy, a bit gilded, a bit pink. The lives of rich and famous tragic queens, again, is not where I tend to spend my time. And yet, I absolutely loved this exhibition. I found it just fascinating and so well put together. Now, it is a big exhibition, and I decided that what I would bring to you would be just looking in detail at some of the textiles that were there, particularly dresses. And because of that, I chose to ignore, in terms of the video, things like shoes and fans and jewellery and interiors and all of that kind of thing. So if you are a great fan of 18th century France, if you are interested in the tragic life of Marie Antoinette, and you would like to take it further, then I really suggest that you get your hands on a copy of the catalogue. Now this is it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, and I think it's very widely available. You don't just have to get it from the museum, and lots of libraries have it, because it is not a traditional exhibition catalogue. It isn't just image and then like label text. Instead, it is lots and lots of kind of essays with pictures in them, and they very cleverly cover everything that was in the exhibition, but without it being that kind of list format. So if you're interested in the topic, then Marie Antoinette Style, the exhibition catalogue, you should be able to get it in a lot of libraries. So the thing that I found really just awe-inspiring about the curatorship of this exhibition is the way that they handled the kind of costumes and things, because there is hardly anything survives that we know that Marie Antoinette had, because, you know, clearly the end of her life, she was imprisoned, then she was executed. At that point, anything that she had became kind of like more of a relic than just an item of clothing. So hardly anything in this exhibition is known to have really belonged to Marie Antoinette. But almost seamlessly, the textiles and the embroideries and the costumes, the dresses, have been brought in from other collections, and they are close enough to what Marie Antoinette would have worn. The same kind of court feel, the fashionable aspects of it. And it transforms the exhibition from being something that is the relic of a fascinating yet tragic life into being something that is full of fun and life and luxury and incredible textile skills. So the exhibition begins with this wedding dress. This is a wedding dress that belonged to Elizabeth Charlotta, who became the Queen of Sweden. It was made in 1774, and the Swedish court was very much copying what was happening in France. So it's likely that the dress was pretty much identical to the one that Marie Antoinette would have worn on her wedding day. But what is particularly important, I think, for comparing the two, is that both of the brides were in their mid-teens, 14, 15. And if you think about them being strapped into this piece of sculpture, really, because this is an incredibly sculptural dress. It has pannier baskets out to the side supporting all of that textile there. So you become kind of like a sideboard that is a display of amazing, wealthy textiles. The bodice is very tight-laced. The point of the whole dress is to show off your tiny waist and that idea of being young and virginal and going to produce heirs and all of this kind of thing. And then you have the actual material that the dress is made of, which was all done in France. The dress was paid for by Marie Antoinette's mother, but the embroidery was done in France. And like this dress, it would have been done in silver wrapped thread. So if you think about every single stitch there has the weight of silver in it. This dress would have been incredibly heavy, particularly when you take its width and the fact that it's got that massive train. So it must have been very difficult to walk through. You couldn't get through any doors which were not palatial doors, because although these panniers at the side could be moved forward, it doesn't look as though that heaviness of dress is going to be very manoeuvrable. So this is a state dress for a state occasion. It is a piece of sculpture. And this is at one extreme of what Marie Antoinette would have been wearing, and that whole kind of showing off grandeur that she gradually moved her personal clothing away from. And of course, court dress was something that was incredible. And the V&A have in its collection a sample. This is a sample to see whether somebody wanted to commission the full dress. And it was by Jean-François Bonny, and it's around about 1780 to 92. He did do work for Marie Antoinette, and the swan's down on this, which you can see, possibly means that it is a regal thing. But look at the detail of this. This would have been worked by several people. There is a plique, there are chenille flowers, there's that swan's down, there is beading, there's incredibly sort of ruched drapes and braid and all kinds of amazing things in this one piece. And when you think quite how much work has gone into the sample which you are presenting to the client, quite how much work and by how many people must the finished dress have been made. And it does make you understand how the expenditure on clothes was quite so high that 1 year Marie Antoinette spent the equivalent of £1.6 million on her clothes for 1 year, at a time when France was in severe financial difficulties. But look at the work that must have gone into these things. But of course, Marie Antoinette's clothes were not just there to show the might of France. They weren't just status things. She was also a walking advertisement for French manufacturing, and particularly for the silk workers in Lyon. And it was this kind of dress, which is called a robe à la française and dates from 1775. This one is in a Los Angeles collection. But it's this kind of dress that was really the epitome of all that was French manufacturing. First, you have this amazing striped silk, which was made in Lyon. And it reminded me of a trip that I took a few years ago to a silk worker's house in Lyon, where they had set up the loom to weave a fabric incredibly like this. They had all of the punch cards, and they were working on the loom so you couldn't see the design as you were working it. And it was just an incredible experience. But the fabric that was produced is almost identical to this. And then on the making up of the dress, you've got all of these little details, these funny little net cups, the chenille braid, the embroidery. It's a confection. It looks like a cream cake. It's just amazing. But the cost of all of these little bits and the way that with them being made fashionable, the boost to French manufacturing throughout Europe, because everybody looked to the French court to see what was fashionable, would have been amazing. Next we come on to a dress that was one of my favourites in the exhibition, certainly in terms of the fabric that was there. This is again silk, but it's a much cheaper silk. Instead of having the designs carefully woven in with the punch cards, the design here was painted onto the warp threads and then stripes woven over it. Much quicker, much cheaper. And this, interestingly, is the kind of dress that Marie Antoinette was wearing more in her daily life. There is a little wardrobe book that survives from 1872, and it seems to have been an inventory of all of the clothes that she had available in her wardrobe in 1872, and that it would be presented to her when she was sort of in bed in the morning, and she would choose from the book what she wanted to wear that day. Each outfit was represented by a small swatch. And then people would go away and they would find the right things for the day, and they would bring them back in these enormous green silk covered baskets for her to get ready into. It reminds me in some way of little wardrobe apps that you can get where you can document your own wardrobe and you can choose your outfit for the day and you can see how much you're wearing particular things. So judging by that, Marie Antoinette was very, very fond of this soft, kind of floaty, lighter design of silk and had several outfits of it. So there are lots of amazing silks in this exhibition, from this pink striped satin, which is in the collection of the Museum of Ulster. And look at how those stripes are used to make the bodice, so that you go from a sort of tiny waist up to the shoulders. Just beautiful. And then there are woven silks, from the kind of floral ones that we've seen, but also things that are hyper fashionable, like this leopard skin and lace thing, which is just mad. What a mad design. But one of the reasons for these really striking designs was that the shape of clothes at this period did not change very much year to year. So the way of appearing really fashionable, very up to date, was to change the fabric of your dress. So the manufacturers brought out seasonal collections of very striking, very up to the minute kind of designs. And that's the way that they could sell more to people wanting to be appearing in the latest fashions. And before we leave silks, I just wanted to show this outfit, which I feel could be worn today. It was a bright yellow shot silk with ruched embroidery. Just beautiful. In 1783, Marie Antoinette commissioned a new portrait of herself by the woman artist Elizabeth Vigée Lebrun. And this portrait caused a scandal. It was called Marie Antoinette en chemise, and it showed her in the kind of outfit that you would traditionally wear in your private apartments. But it wasn't just that caused the scandal. It was the fact that she was wearing cotton. And cotton was becoming much more popular for fashionable dress, and that was at the expense of the Lyon silk trade. It was lighter, it was more washable, it looked fresher and cleaner, it felt more relaxed. Cotton was taking over from silk. And here we see an outfit that is part silk. The top is silk, and then the bottom is cotton, which is embroidered around the base in this glorious flower design. But France, of course, did have a cotton industry. It just didn't have as much political clout as the silk industry. But during the 18th century, it was very dynamic, and there was lots of innovations in furnishing fabrics, but also in dress fabrics, and particularly with roller printing and multicolour designs. And this wonderful dress is from 1785, and the colour is just amazing. So at this point in the exhibition, everybody else, I think, went off to look at the execution galleries, which I bypassed as being a little bit wax works for me. But the final room was just a collection of couture, which had been inspired by Marie Antoinette Style over the last couple of 100 years. So I thought I would just add that on here. My particular favourite were these blue toile de jouy boots. Until next week, bye-bye.